Hey everyone, it's Gary here from Echidna Sewing. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new slide-on magnetic hoop for the Brother single needle machines. Well, here it is. It's finally been released, and this is going to be an amazing product for so many people because magnetic hoops do have some definite advantages. And the best thing about having a genuine Brother magnetic hoop for your machine is that the machine will recognize it, and there's been a lot of thought put into this hoop to make sure that you can't actually damage your machine. So let's open it and have a look what's in the box. Let's get that out now. It really isn't a lot, to be honest. You've got a little instruction guide and all the warnings that you need to know about magnets. Now, of course, one of the questions people always ask is, oh my goodness, magnets, won't they hurt my machine? Will they damage my machine? These days, no. The type of electronics in sewing machines and embroidery machines, the magnets are not going to hurt it. But to exercise common sense, of course, magnets are dangerous in many circumstances, and that's why there are all sorts of warnings with it. You'll notice as we take this out the box, there's all sorts of little labels on there. Probably the most important one, I think, is the one that has the little heart pacemaker symbol. It can play havoc with certain electronics, and pacemakers apparently are one of them. So if you do have a pacemaker, I do not suggest you use one of these. Keep it away from you. Do not hold it against your chest for obvious reasons. But that's an important warning. There is also a pinch hazard because the magnets are quite strong, and you just need to exercise common sense, to be honest. So anyway, here it is. This is the slide-on magnetic frame for the Brother machines, and that will fit pretty much, I think, almost all the machines that have the slide-on hoop, and will accommodate a 5x7 or a 130 by 180 hoop. Your machine may need to be updated to the latest firmware for it to work, so just check with the Brother website and check that your machine is up to date. But otherwise, it's it's made well. It's a really nice little product, as you'd expect from Brother. So we're going to dig in and have a closer look at how it works. I'm going to pop it down on here. I'm actually working on my hooping station at the moment because it's ergonomically much nicer to work with. One of the advantages of me using this magnetic frame on the Echidna hooping station is that the magnets actually also will hold beautifully on the hooping station, so the hoop's not going to move around anywhere. So as you can see, hopefully camera guy's got all this in shot from the overhead, and you can see there are these different magnetic sections around here. This is as it comes out the box. So I'm going to take these guys off, and you can actually peel them up just there. You'll notice there's bits of cardboard. When you open this up, that cardboard will be between the magnets and the hoop. And I'll explain that in a minute. Well, actually, you take all these cardboard pieces away. I don't need them for now, so I'll just take these off. Again, another reason, a nice reason about using the hooping station is these will actually sit beautifully on the hooping station and not get lost on the table when you're not using them. So we've now released all the magnets, and I might just put these back up here. And you can see, if this is all in shot, each of these little, the magnet clamps has got two very, very strong magnets, very securely held in the plastic clamp there. And there are another opposing two magnets in each part of the main frame. And what makes this quite unique is that it uses the opposite polarity of the magnets to actually attract and hold really, really strongly. The other thing I like about this is it's a very thin plastic clamp here, so there's not a lot of bulk in this unit. Some of the magnetic hoops in the market are quite bulky, and when you put a heavier fabric or a quilt sandwich in there, they can really sit up. I'm going to explain that in a few moments. So there we have it. That's what the unit looks like. Again, not much to it, really, really simple. And the first thing we might do is just show you how those magnets actually work. Now, this is the 5x7 hoop, or the 130 by 180, and I'll just show you by comparison the standard 5x7 hoop. So you can see it's a little bit wider, and there's reasons for that. It has to be a bit wider to facilitate the use of these magnetic clamps, but it is still the same embroidery area as the standard 5x7 hoop. Now, the good thing is when you put this hoop onto your machine, the machine will recognize it, and it will ensure that you can't stitch over an area that you shouldn't stitch over, because it's a genuine Brother product. So where would you use a magnetic hoop? Well, there's lots of reasons. One of the main reasons is for people who do just simply struggle with hooping. You can use this to hoop pretty much anything, and you're not struggling to actually push the inner ring into the outer ring on a standard hoop. So for those folks who do have, you know, sort of arthritic conditions and really struggle pushing hoops into place, you might find this is just a godsend and you'll use it all the time. But the biggest advantage on a magnetic hoop is it just makes hooping many products much easier, and you can avoid things like hoop burn and damaging fabrics. Now, we'll show you that in a very practical sense. This is like a bit of a corduroy type fabric, and often a fabric like this, when hooping in a traditional hoop, can easily get hoop burn around these textured areas here, and it can be a little bit difficult to hoop. So hooping something like that on this frame is very easy. I'm using just a bit of cutaway here. So I would, again, another advantage of the hooping station is you can just use your magnets that come with the hooping station to hold the stabilizer in place, so it's not going to move around anywhere. And I'm just going to throw this piece up here. Now, the way it works is you can start anywhere really, but I usually start on the inner side just here, and I take one of the standard little magnets here. You'll notice there's a little arrow that points inwards. That's pointing into the hoop, and we just basically drop that into position. Now, the great thing about this, and I'll just tip this back for a minute and show you, because the magnets are positioned, the clamps will automatically self-position themselves. So you really can't put them in the wrong place because they'll be attracted to the magnet that is actually designed for that piece. So in other words, if I pop this back over there and take this guy across here, I just got to let it go and it will find its position. Now, the best way to do it is to slide it across, and that takes out any slack in the fabric. And now we might put this one on the top here, slide it up, takes out the slack in the fabric. It automatically positioned itself. I didn't have to do anything. Slide that one across, slide this one across, and pop this one into position down the bottom. And that's it. That is now hooped up, ready to go. Just get rid of all our magnets back up there. And nice and easy. Couldn't get much simpler than that. And that will just slide onto your machine like any normal hoop. Now, again, I'm not sure what camera angle is going to be best here. Perhaps heading from the down shot. You'll see it's a very narrow profile here. Now that's good because it gets under the presser foot on the machine very, very easily. Now, naturally, the thicker the fabric you put on here, the wider the profile is going to be. And that is a definite problem on many of the generic magnetic hoops that are on the market. The thicker the profile of the fabric, the higher the hoop sits. And we do see machines come in where there's been needle bar strikes on the hoops, particularly when stitching on thicker fabrics, and it can damage your machine. It's almost impossible to do that on this frame, and really well thought out by the team at Brother. So that's a simple little hooping on a flat piece of fabric. And let's have a look at some other things that would be a real advantage. Take these magnets back off, just clip them back there like that. Move that out the way. I might keep my piece of stabilizer. Now, well, here's a good example of something. And I dug this piece of fabric up out of our fabric stash. And this is a textured, very delicate knit. It's got a lot of stretch in it, and typically would be quite a difficult thing to hoop, let alone embroider, because it would stretch. It's got a velour kind of embossing over it, and that velour would also damage if we were trying to hoop that. Now, whatever stabilizer you would want to use, I'd use a cutaway with that, providing I didn't mind a little bit of bulk behind the design. But again, I would just place my my magnets here to hold my cutaway in position. And again, this is a very, very high stretch fabric. We'll take this slightly bigger bit down here. And when you're hooping this type of fabric, you do not want to stretch it, because if you stretch it while you're hooping, once you finish your design, it will tend to want to contract, and you'll have a little bits of puckering and all sorts of horrible nasties around the design. So flatten that out. Again, we'd start over here on this side. I'm not going to be squeezing too much out. I just want this to be neutrally hooped. But because I can simply place my magnets there like that, without me having to stretch anything or push or try and get this the outer ring into the inner ring of a hoop, in which case, you know, it automatically tends to stretch the fabric a wee bit. I'm just going to get a perfect hooping here. So it's just a matter of there, and then the final one down the bottom, Now you could also use an iron-on stabilizer on this if you felt it was necessary. So a lot depends on what you're actually going to embroider on this fabric. But let's just take that off and have a look at that hooping. And that's hooped absolutely perfectly. You can see the back, it's nice and firm. This fabric, there's no movement in the fabric at all. I haven't stretched it. There's no way I've damaged the velour finish on it. That's a perfect hooping. So typical example of where a magnetic hoop may be a huge advantage. So let's take that guy off. Actually, you know, the more I use this magnetic hoop in conjunction with our hooping station, the more I love it. The way the magnets just sit there and will be right at hand for me. Now, next thing to look at is perhaps a towel. I think magnetic hoops are great for towels because a lot of domestic hoops, I mean the Brother ones are quite good, but some really don't hold that well because they're much thinner in profile than say a commercial style machine. And I'm sure everyone's had it. You've been embroidering a towel and all of a sudden the hoop has come out of play, and of course that just wrecks the project, doesn't it, if your hoop pops out of position. So I would use a wash away normally with a towel. In this case I've just got a bit of cut away, but I'm just going to pop that there. Generally I would use a wash away, but again, hooping a towel, you can also damage towels when you're hooping, but with the magnetic hoops we just need to pop that up there. I'm going to pop that one in there. You'll see it grips beautifully. There's a lot of grip on those magnets. They're very strong. And we'll come across there. Again, I don't want to stretch my towel. I want to have it neutral because if you stretch it, you end up getting a not so good result. Let's get my last one here. Get rid of that bit of thread there. And there we go. That's a towel perfectly hooped. Again, perfect stabilizers, tautness there. Fabric, that's just so stable, it's lovely. And that's a bit thicker, of course, so that does lift the profile of the magnets, but again, on this genuine Brother magnetic frame, it doesn't matter if the profile is a bit higher because there's no way the needle can strike. And typically on some of the generic frames that are out there, what happens is when you get to the far right of your design, and if you've got a thickness under there, the needle bar screw itself actually comes down over the top of these magnets. And if it's too thick, it can hit, and that can cause all sorts of issues. That cannot happen on this hoop because of the way the hoop's been designed and the way Brother have engineered it for their machines. So you can really use this one safe in the knowledge that you are not going to damage your machine at all, and that's a good thing. So let's go and have a look at something considerably more difficult to hoop and why you might find a magnetic frame will save your bacon. Let's get rid of that towel. Now, I actually stitched this Christmas stocking just recently, and I did it in the traditional 5x7 hoop, along with a cutaway stabilizer, and it was a challenge to actually hoop up. These are the EB stockings. They're great. They're a terrific product, beautiful quality. The beautiful thing about these guys is they open right out. So we'll just take the zipper, undo that, and open it right out. So you can stitch pretty much anywhere on this stocking, but it's quite thick, and there's seams in there and all sorts of things to deal with. But what I wanted to do, and what you can see here, is I stitched down across the top of the boot there, but it was difficult, and I had to do that vertically in a hoop. So I just tried hooping it up with this hoop just before. Pop my stabilizer in place. Hopefully this is in the middle of shot. Camera guy, are we good? Yep. And if I was to hoop up the top section here, now I can't get the whole band at the top into the hoop, but using my stabilizer, positioning this where I want it, and because this is lined, the top and the bottom of this fabric are not together. So there's nothing holding them together. So if you don't hoop it well, the top of the faux fur can actually move, and whereas the bottom of the lining under here will not. But I want to be able to get this hooped without fighting with it. So I'm just going to position that there, kind of straight down my hoop there. That's my square edge. And this time I'm going to start with my top magnet and just find my position there. I'll go up a little bit further. That's got it great. So that's actually held firmly right there now. Now I do want this to flatten out fairly nicely, so I'm now going to maybe pop this one in here because they're just going to go on the stabilizer itself. Now I'm going to come down and basically put this one into place. And then the two side ones, and there's a big seam down here, which would be difficult to deal with under certain circumstances. And there's a seam right here. But quite honestly, with the magnetic hoops in place, I am so good to go there. Now, when I load my design, I will use a basting stitch, and that will baste in around my text that I'm going to stitch there, or whatever the design is. And that was so much easier to hoop than using the traditional hoop that I did the first part on. And if we take that away, hooped up perfectly underneath. Once I get my basting stitch down, this is not going to move. It's going to be held beautifully, and I'm going to get a smashing result. So, so great for textured, bulky items, jackets, and anywhere where there's a seam that kind of does get in the way of using a traditional hoop. You'll find this is a fantastic way to go about things. So take these magnets back off. Again, it's really easy to unhook things. Take that away. And finally, the last thing we'll quickly talk about is if you're a quilter or you do a bit of in the hoop quilting or whatever it is you like to do, a quilt sandwich is also sometimes a bit of a challenge on a traditional hoop. So we've just got a couple of layer of batting in there and a couple of pieces of fabric, so just some sort of homespun, and pop that in there. So there's a bit of thickness in this. Again, in the simplest form, the way to hoop this up, I like to start on the inner corner here, position my first magnet, take my next one, slide across, make sure it's taken out any of the slack in the fabric. Do this one here, I'll do this one down here. There is no absolute correct order, it's just the way you like to do it, that one, and then this one down here. And look at that, we've got a perfect hooping there. Everything's super easy. So that is the new slide-on 5x7 or 130 by 180 magnetic frame from Brother. Terrific product, well thought out, obviously perfect for all the Brother models that it suits. Check our website if you do need to confirm that, or give us a call or contact us and we'll tell you if your machine's suitable. But all in all, love the product, beautifully engineered, and everyone should have one. Cheers.